Welcome back to the First Team. I'm Joe DeLeone, and with me is my good friend and NFL draft analyst Ryan Roberts. Today, we're doing another scouting report episode. We're almost done with these. We're rounding around the corner. We're going to be ready for dropping our position rankings soon, some real position rankings. We're not talking about dropping a top 10 after watching 10 guys. No, we're going to give you some good, detailed position rankings for summer scouting in the 2025 NFL Draft. Today, we've got Harold Perkins, LSU, and we've got Abdul Carter from Penn State. Two ambiguous football players. I have no idea what position they were playing last year. We don't totally know what position they're playing this year, but I guess that they're linebacker hybrid types. We're going to talk about that today. What do you already look like you're straining?
Well, we've had this conversation in the past, and I think that it's a very interesting conversation. We don't have to go super in depth on it, but it's like the towing of the line between being a hybrid and being a tweener, right? Where you're like, hybrid is good. That means you can do a bunch of different things. Tweener means you don't have a spot, right? So like that's the towing of the line. And these guys that we're talking about today, literally they are towing that line. It's not a negative because that means that they could be towing it in the good direction of just being able to do a bunch of different things for a defense. But then there's the other side of like, well, are they going to turn into Isaiah Simmons, right? Where like that's just the towing of the line that I'm talking about.
R.I.P. Isaiah Simmons. I hold him close to the heart. He was one of the first guys that I ever scouted, and I am still depressed that he did not
freak show, man. He was a freak show. 6'4", 230 something. They ran a 4.38 or whatever it was. It's like it didn't make any sense.
Speaking of a freak show, Harold Perkins, 6'1", 220, flies all over the field. The LSU defensive player was playing overhang last year. Very out of position.
Speaking of Isaiah Simmons. Speaking of
Isaiah Simmons, true freshman year was just a run you off the edge athlete, kind of like what Anthony Hill Jr. did this year for Texas. Hopefully, Blake Baker, who comes in as the new LSU DC, can figure him out, and we can get actual glimpses of what this kid could be like in the NFL. Ryan, what do you got for us on background on Harold Perkins?
Well, first of all, you said the incorrect height and weight. We actually have a verified measurable on this one, Joseph.
Sorry. God forbid.
Verified Harold Perkins this spring. 6'1" and 215 pounds was the verified for Harold Perkins. So he's smaller, Joe. We're just going to go into our conversation later. But this young man, everyone knew about him coming out. He was out of Cypress, Texas, went to Cy Park, which is a very, very, very good program in the state of Texas. He was considered the boring recruiting rankings here. Ready? On 3, 247 Sports, ESPN, all had him ranked as a 5-star. The highest was ESPN, ranking him as number 4 overall player in the 2022 recruiting class. On 3, had him at number 12. 247 Sports had him at number 5, so top 12 player by 3 different platforms. Rivals was a little bit lower. They saw him as a high 4-star, but he was number 34 overall player in the class. Freshman All-American, 7.5 sacks, big-time production as a freshman. This year, production was about the same, a couple less sacks, though, overall, but obviously, like you said, Joe, very interesting player because he moved from basically just being a rush end to a Sam linebacker overhang this past year. So very interesting player, to say the least.
So when you watch him, you can already tell at the 2025 NFL Combine, he's going to be a guy that tests really well, jumps 40-time short area, if he tests at all. We know that is not a guarantee anymore.
Well, the great thing is that there was actually, I forgot to mention this in the little intro there, verified measurable on him. Apparently he ran 4.38 for scouts this spring. So
damn.
Yeah, so he can run.
You and I had a back and forth on this on his time. Not so much a disagreement, but I remember you and I talked about it and we were saying low 4.4s. 4.38. I wasn't ready to get that spicy. I was going to say like a 4.45. That is tremendous. It makes a lot of sense. He flies all over the field no matter where he was put. So when he was playing this weird overhang role, he was able to cover a lot of space really quickly. When he was playing that rush end and when they were blitzing him and he was coming off the edge, he was way too quick for some guys to keep up with. Like he made some SEC tackles look silly because he was just blowing past them. He's not going to be a full-time edge rusher. He's just not big enough or long enough to do that, but it is nice that he has that in his wheelhouse. Going to be playing Will Backer this upcoming year. I think his skill set fits with him being a Will Backer because he does a really nice job of navigating things around him and understanding and reading things in front of him. I will say, Ryan, to me, why I really like Harold Perkins and why I was pleasantly surprised about him for the way that we've talked about his role and his misusage. One would assume that we would be sitting here saying, this guy has bad instincts because he hasn't been put in a situation to learn to play a particular position in football. I think despite being screwed by defensive coordinators, Matt House specifically, he has shown just a really, really natural ability to make plays. Like, you can tell that no matter what they were asking him to do, he was able to make plays. So getting sacks, getting tackles for loss, the interception that he has against Missouri is pretty ridiculous. And that is at a spot that he is never going to be asked to play really in the NFL. So I think that that's why I have optimism that he will eventually work out as a Will Backer in the NFL, albeit linebackers are not super highly sought after these days. But I see this natural playmaker that you give him a chance to play it this year, and he's probably going to shine.
I mean, he's a special athlete, right? Like, there's no doubt about it. I mean, even though he's a smaller guy, and again, 6 foot and an eighth, which he's verified at 215 pounds, 4.38's crazy. Like, that is a crazy time. It pops on film. I mean, Joe, you don't even have to know who Harold Perkins is. You'll just keep writing number 4 on your sheet, right? On your notebook. That's kind of just how that works, right? And then there's just gonna be a bunch of pluses next to him. He is the great debates, right? The great debate, because yes, freshman year, a lot of great sack production, speed rusher off the edge. You're correct. 6 foot and an eighth, 215 pounds. He's not going to be able to play that full time. It's just not. Maybe on some sub and some certain situations, blitzing off the edge and sub, like, he can do those types of things at times. But then this past year, Matt House is an idiot, bro. Like, he's an idiot. What do you want me to say? Like, we're putting your best athlete in a position that is not sustainable or doesn't matter as much on the NFL level anymore. It just doesn't. You hurt him. Actually hurt him. You wasted a year of developments for Harold Perkins. You absolutely did that. Will linebacker is where he's going to have to play on the next level, because that's the only spot with his size profile that he's going to be able to play full time. And this is going to be a very interesting comparison. Do you remember? Well, maybe you don't remember. Well, you watched him because you're a Notre Dame fan. Jeremiah Owusu-Koramoah is almost the same size as Harold Perkins. And what did he play when he was at Notre Dame? He was a rover, which is that overhang position. And when he was a projection, now he's one of the best will linebackers in the NFL, right? He's a Pro Bowl level linebacker this past year for the Cleveland Browns. So he figured it out. And he figured it out because he's explosive, physical, and he has great instincts. I think that Harold Perkins has 2 of those for sure. He's incredibly explosive, can run for days, and he has good instincts, just spatial instincts. My biggest question of him is physically, I think he has some pop in his pads, but like, there was a couple times where I thought he just kind of got devoured against bigger blockers, right? Which is going to happen at times. But that's the only thing, is I just want to see if that power profile can take a step forward, the ability to engage and disengage at the point of attack, get off blocks, because that's really the only hanging point I have, other than him not playing the position enough at this point, because he has all the natural instincts and athleticism to be very good at it. It's just the physicality is one thing that Jock had coming out of Notre Dame. Does Harold Perkins have it? That's the question that I'm looking forward to seeing if it's answered in 2024.
So that's where the big negative, I think, comes into play here with me, where, again, I was expecting to speak poorly on his instincts because of what he was asked to do and not being put in a position to succeed. Still found ways to succeed despite this. You hit the nail on the head that he doesn't really have the physicality that you would be seeking with a will linebacker, albeit he knows how to navigate things. Will backers are going to be caught in the muck a lot. You know, they're going to be dealing with blockers. They're going to be dealing with guys scraping off of double teams and coming down on them. And as you described it, he at times struggles to disengage from blocks when guys get on him. Mm-hmm. Now, he's fast enough to evade them, but I just get worried if he's reading things are flowing and he gets picked up off of that double team scrape off. Like, what ends up happening? Is he going to get completely removed from a play? So that's where my wariness comes into account, where he needs to be more exposed in learning how to get off these blocks. And I don't think that he's not strong enough. I just think he doesn't know how to be physical in the box and really pop guys and get off of him, because he did at least show some ability to do that when he was playing as an edge rusher.
I think that is just, it's about the projection points, because when you're playing linebacker position, you don't have to be a guy that is the greatest shedder of all time as far as, making contact, locking out, peeking, and getting off a block. Like, you don't have to be that guy. There's a lot of good linebackers in the NFL currently and in the past that are slippers, like they're block slippers. They're guys that understand how to attack leverage to one shoulder or the other, and that's how they get to their spots. That with that though, and I think the one thing we need to, again, just kind of circle back to is that, will he be able to consistently slip blocks when he is just used to that discipline of playing an inside linebacker position, something that he has never played before? Because if he figures it out, Joe, I mean, let's be honest. Of the guys that I've watched so far, and I'm right around 100 players now that I've evaluated so far for the 2020.
I'm almost caught up to you. You're only at 100?
Joe, you did this last time and you were like 30 behind me. Why are you doing this right now? Go ahead. How many are you?
I'm at 60.
Okay, so you're 40 behind now, and you were like 30 last time. Anyway,
I'm catching up.
He is, of the 100 players right around that I have watched so far, he's one of the guys that has rare athleticism, right? He's one of the guys that you look at and say, if that guy hits his ceiling, he could be special. He's not there yet because of, again, mismanagement LSU had of him the last couple years, but he certainly has that upside if he does hit as a football player and he becomes just more consistent playing a position that is ultimately going to matter for him on the next level.
So I've got a mid to late first on him. Is that what you got?
Have? Yeah. I didn't have my sheet up for some reason. I have a late 1, early 2 on him. So I have on my scale, I have a 7-9, which basically means I'd be willing to take him in the first round, but he's right on the fringe of being a pure first round grades. But regardless, I will tell you this, of the, again, 100 guys that I've watched so far, Harold Perkins ranks in that list as a top 15 player in this class for me overall. So if we're talking about in a vacuum, he's a top 15 player as of today for me, because I'm banking on that athletic upside. It is all there. It is just now about harnessing it and finding it structurally in a position that makes sense on the next level.
Yeah, it's very funny this year with the amount of guys that you watch that maybe don't really have a confident first round grade, but still end up being projected top 20 picks. There's going to be a lot of those. BetOnline remains your top spot for all of your live betting action and contests. NFL, college football, UFC, NHL are all in full swing. BetOnline is your number one source for wagering news, odds, trends, and predictions with both desktop and mobile access at any time. Head to BetOnline today and use promo code BELIEVE, that's BLEAV, for 50% off your first deposit. That is a 50% welcome bonus. BetOnline, where the game starts.